So I've been drawing every day for almost 6 years now, and so many times in the journey I thought to myself, man, if I only knew this earlier, it would have made everything so much easier. Especially in the early stages, I feel there are some walls that everyone runs into, such as, what should I focus on learning? How do I figure out what I should specialize in? Or what my style is? How do I start building an audience? How do I get good? So in this video, I wanted to share with you 4 things that I wish I knew earlier. By the way, if you're new here, I'm Ori, and let's get started. So when it comes to anime style art, I found that the most important skill to focus on is the character drawing. Because no matter how good you are at coloring, lighting, composition, or anything else, if you can't draw the character well, people just aren't going to find the work very appealing. It's the reason why a well-drawn piece still looks good even in black and white. With the face in particular, it usually either needs to look cute, beautiful, or cool. In my own art journey, I really only started to get work once I focused on improving my character drawing and becoming proficient at it. So I wish someone told me earlier, hey Ori, all the other stuff is important too, but the character is the most important part of anime art. So make learning how to draw them your top priority. There's 2 skills involved in drawing the character. The skill of drawing the figure and the skill of stylization, which is, how do I stylize the figure in a way that looks appealing? The first skill is quite obvious, but I didn't realize the second one was even a skill which you should train. Because in my mind, I mistakenly thought that because it's anime, you can do whatever you want because stylization has no rules. Although that's not wrong, if you do whatever you want, it's probably not going to look good. It's like cooking. You can use any ingredients and cook them in however way you want and still make quote-unquote food. But the real question is it going to taste good? Will it look appetizing? And if you're working professionally, are my customers going to want this? The expert chef has spent years leveling up their understanding of what ingredients, cooked in which way, will produce a world-class dish that people will like. Whereas a complete newbie isn't likely to create something great if you just throw them into a kitchen and say, hey, there are no rules, so do whatever you want. Simply because they haven't leveled up their skills in those areas yet. Art is also the same. Everything, including stylization, is a skill that you can learn through practice, and over time, as you level up your skills, you can start becoming like that master chef who can choose their own ingredients and methods to create unique dishes that people will love. As for how to level up those 2 skills, for learning how to draw the figure, I personally did the following cycle. First, I learned the structure of the body parts using references. Then I drew turnarounds of the body part. Finally, I reflected how well the drawings turned out by comparing it with the references, and I would repeat this cycle for each body part. I go into it in much more detail in this video, which I'll link to in the description, so you can go check it out after watching this one. As for stylization, you can learn it by studying already existing styles that look appealing to you, which usually means doing studies of works by artists you admire. And if you're a beginner, I can also recommend studying from anime because it's a lot simpler than an illustration. So it'll be easier to study from when you're just starting out. The next thing is that once you've started to draw for a while, you're probably going to wonder what you should specialize in. For example, you might be thinking, I know I'm into anime style art and I like drawing, but what kind of style should I go for? Do I want to focus on illustration, concept art, character design, manga, webtoon, or animation? What should my niche be? It's like when you're playing an RPG and you're choosing which class to go with for your character. Do you want to be a knight that stands in the front line with your sword and shield? Or do you want to be an archer that snipes enemies from the back? Or perhaps a spellcaster that supports the party with your powerful magic? Oh man, whenever I start a new game, I can spend a whole day just on character creation. But at least with a game, the stakes are much lower, and at worst, we might spend a few hours playing the game before realizing we've chosen the wrong thing. But in real life, the stakes are much higher, and we're often thinking, what if I pick one, spend all this time and effort learning the thing and buying expensive equipment, but end up not liking it? I think this is a completely reasonable concern to have, and in fact, programmers have a common saying about this, which is, don't prematurely optimize. So how do we know which is the right thing to choose? The first thing to keep in mind is that we are terrible at predicting whether we will like something until we actually try doing it. Thinking about or watching others do the thing is a completely different experience than actually doing the thing for ourselves. So it's not going to give you the information you need to predict whether or not you are likely to enjoy the thing over the long term. So I found that the solution is to do what's called a sampling period. I first came across this concept in the book Range, written by the author David Epstein. Kind sir, I am so sorry for butchering your name. In it, he found that when you look at the science and research done on top performers in areas such as sports and music, it turns out they first tend to go through what's called a sampling period before deciding to specialize in something. In other words, they don't just pick their field and niche right away and try to get through 10,000 hours as early as possible. Instead, they try different activities, gain general skills that help them with later learning, and find out what things suit them before specializing. And that's also what we want to do. So during the sampling period, You're actively trying out all the different things you're interested in by actually doing them. You have a go drawing in different styles and studying different artists. You try drawing traditionally or digitally. Have a go at learning concept art or animation. Dive into design or draw a short manga chapter. By going through this sampling period, you'll eventually find the things that resonate with you more than others. And when you do, you should try diving deeper into those things while cutting out the others that don't resonate with you. Over time, this will help you narrow down which direction you should go in and what you should commit to. So how should one go about this sampling period? First, I'll share with you my own sampling period to give you an idea of what it looks like, and then I'll share some tips for doing your own. But I just want to point out that you don't have to limit yourself to only art-related things for your sampling period. For example, I was also interested in YouTube, and I loved games and figuring out all the mechanics and best builds and all that. So I sampled it by starting a gaming channel with a friend a couple years back. We only did it for a few months and the channel only gained about 100 subscribers, but the important thing was that I learned that I enjoyed making videos, and I also gained some skills which carried over to the creation of this current channel I have right now. So if you're interested in other things such as doing YouTube, making a game, or streaming, you might want to also consider sampling those too. You never know, it will turn out to be a great match for you, and the skills you learn might come in handy. Also, when you're going through the sampling period, you might be interested in checking out some of the classes over at Skillshare who are kindly sponsoring this video. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with classes on just about everything by industry experts. So you might find it useful for sampling since you'll quickly be able to find a class on the topic you're interested in and get started learning right away. If you're not sure where to start, there are also these learning paths, which are classes that build on one another that you take in order. They're available for a range of experience levels, from beginner to advanced, and span across a wide variety of categories, such as this learning path which covers the traditional fundamentals of drawing, which is always handy to learn if you've never gone through them before. So if you're interested in taking the new year to learn a new skill or level up an existing one, you can check out Skillshare through the link in the description. And if you happen to be one of the first 500 people to use my link, you'll get a 1-month trial completely for free. So thank you so much Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So even though I'm an illustrator right now, I never thought I would end up as one, and I actually sampled many different types of art beforehand. First, I tried drawing manga, then I tried drawing 4-panel manga. Then finally, I tried illustration, and that's when things clicked for me, which was weird because I always thought I wanted to be a manga artist. But it turns out you really won't know what you like or what suits you until you actually try doing it. Once I decided illustration was going to be my thing, I then sampled different styles and ways of drawing to figure out what I liked and what my niche was going to be. I did things such as taking environment painting courses. I studied and tried out different art styles. I learned how to use Blender and 3D since I always had an interest in it, and figured out how to incorporate it into my art. I also tried learning concept art, and so on, before eventually deciding to focus on the style of character illustrations, which I do today. So my method for sampling something is to do a sampling project with the goal of creating a finished work by a specific date. For example, when I sampled manga, I drew a manga chapter and submitted it to a contest which had a deadline. With 4-panel manga, at the time I was really into this game called Fate Grand Order, also known as FGO, and drew a bunch of comic strips about it that I posted on Reddit for a couple of months. At one point, I tried drawing some FGO fan art and I found that I actually liked it better and felt it suited me more, so I started going deeper down that path. When sampling different techniques and art styles, I still made creating something the goal. For example, for trying out 3D, I made the goal to create an illustration utilizing it for the background. I quite enjoyed it, so I decided to dive deeper and try creating more illustrations using it. So if you're sampling something like webtoons, then creating and posting a finished short chapter should be the goal. And if it's animation, then create a short animation. Keep in mind that the goal of these sampling projects isn't to win any awards. It's simply to figure out if the thing is for you and also learn skills along the way. The deadline you set for each sampling project will depend on how complex the thing is and how much work it would take to create the finished product. For example, if you're sampling manga, then you might need a few months to learn the basics, plot out the story, and draw everything. But if you're just sampling a different style of art than you're used to, you probably don't need that long. Also, you can always do another sampling project on the same thing if you find that you like it and want to dive deeper. But having deadlines will help prevent the sampling project from dragging on forever. Because remember that the sampling period is meant to be a temporary, not a permanent state for us to be in. It's designed to help us figure out what suits us and which direction we should go in, because success will require us to eventually focus on just one thing, which I'll talk about in the next point. In other words, we don't want to spend our whole lives building 100 half-built bridges. Instead, we are choosing to half-build some bridges right now in order to figure out which bridge we should commit to. So here's some steps you can follow to design your own sampling period. First, you're going to want to write down a list of all the things you're interested in doing and are considering. Try to write down as many as you can think of, since at this stage, you're really just exploring all the different options and directions you might want to go in. Then rank them in order of interest, with number 1 being whatever the most interesting thing to you right now is. Then you're going to want to delete everything other than the top 10 because although those things are possibly good, it's probably not going to be as good as our top 10. Then you're also going to want to delete items 6 to 10 because by the time you get to them, you'll have learned more about your own tastes, and so your interests will probably have changed. Finally, you're going to also want to cross out items 2 to 4 for now because they're currently a distraction and you can revisit them later. Now, take the remaining number 1 thing and write down what finished work you will create for the sampling project, what the deadline is, what's the first step you need to take, whether that's drawing a sketch, watching a tutorial, or enrolling in a course, and then get started immediately. After finishing the sampling project, decide if you want to dive deeper and continue sampling the same thing. In that case, you can simply create another project for it. Otherwise, check that your interest rankings for the remaining items haven't changed, then sample the next one on the list. By the way, if you're finding this helpful, I hope you can let me know by dropping a quick like below. After we've used the sampling period to figure out what we want to do, we need to completely switch gears and hone in on doing just one thing now. There are 2 reasons why focusing on one thing is not only important, but essential to us as artists and creators. The first is that we learn faster when we focus on just one thing. This is because practicing the same thing repeatedly lets us improve much faster than if we were to continually change what we are practicing each time. For example, if we draw a cute girl one time, but the next thing we draw is a cool, gritty old man, what we learned from drawing the cute girl in the first go won't carry over that well for drawing the old man. The learning that carries over would probably just be the general skills, such as the fundamentals and understanding of anatomy. But if we were to focus on drawing just cute girls the second time too, then a lot more of the learning would transfer, such as how to draw the eyes beautifully and how to make the figure and pose look feminine, and so on. The second reason is that it lets us build an audience for our work. I found that if you want to build a following, it's really important to decide what your niche is and only do that. You need to think of yourself kind of like a specialty sushi shop that only serves one type of sushi, say salmon sushi, but does it really well. If your salmon sushi is great, people will continue to come back for more and you'll start to build up a reputation for being the salmon sushi restaurant to go to. Over time, you can slowly expand the menu to different types of sushi, and people who already know and love your salmon sushi will be willing to try them. But imagine if you make salmon sushi one week and then the next you start selling hot dogs instead. People will be like, what? I came here for salmon sushi, but now it's hot dogs. The more you keep changing what you do, the harder it will be for people to understand what the specialty of your shop is and why they should come back to it. It's the same thing for us artists, except the shop is our social media and what's on the menu is our art. The most efficient way to build a following then would be to start by drawing one specific thing for a long time, such as a specific character or niche. Only once we've established a solid reputation for that one thing can we start thinking about expanding our menu. You'll often find that although the creators with massive followings do many different things now, chances are they built up their initial audience by first getting known for just one thing. And honestly, sticking to just one thing for a long time is really hard because there's usually a lot of things we want to draw as artists and inspiration can strike us from anywhere and anything. I personally think I could have done a better job at it myself, but just like with everything else, I also believe it's a skill that we can get better at the more we do it. By the way, it goes without saying that what we make also has to be of quality since no one's going to want to eat bad salmon sushi. So we need to continue to improve our craft, which brings us to the next point. So I'm a big fan of Honkai Star Rail, and in the game, you can make your characters stronger by leveling up their skills. But each level only improves the skill by a few percent, sometimes only a fraction of a percent. So in the beginning part of the game, when you only have enough resources to level them up once or twice, you're like, is this even going to make a difference? I don't see any impact at all. But as you reach endgame and continue to level them up, those small percentage increases start to add up and your characters become complete badasses. I think the same thing applies to the game of drawing. There's no single thing that will make you really good right away. There's no secret hack, brush, or tip that's going to level you up 100 times in one go. But there are a lot of small things which will improve your skills by 1%. So instead of trying to find that one magic thing that will make us good right away, which doesn't exist, what we should focus on instead is getting those 1% improvements each time we draw. This also helps with motivation, since it lets us avoid the trap of placing a huge burden on ourselves every time we sit down to create something. The reality is, we don't need to get good right away. We don't need to get it right the first time, and we don't need to draw the perfect piece. We just need to keep at it and focus on leveling up 1% at a time. Anyway, if you're still watching, thanks for getting all the way to the end. And as mentioned, you might want to check out this video on the 2-month training arc I did to finally improve at anatomy and poses. If you enjoyed this video, I do hope you consider subscribing so you don't miss out when I make a new one. This was Ori, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!